Welcome back to the fifth and final video in the series, and give yourself a big pat on the back if you watched them all. Previously I talked about strengthen your mindset, followed by building good behavioural habits, after that taking positive actions towards your goals, and then nutrition recommendations for fat loss. Today it's all about effective training tips to produce the results you want. If you missed any, simply click on one of or all the links below. I'm going to start off by saying this clip is so important towards what you're wanting to achieve. Ideally, I'd like to listen to it closely and maybe even watch it a couple of times. When it comes to training, effectiveness first, intensity second, frequency third, and volume last. I'll discuss those in detail in just a moment. The main intention of these brief videos is to arm you with information to ensure you're training at the right intensity to produce the results you want. Most people, if they're honest with themselves, stop way short of creating hypertrophy. In other words, breaking down muscle fibers enough for them to progress. If you're exercising, ask yourself, is my training effective? Are you focused on striving to do more work, lift more weights and or do more reps in your session? Are you training regular enough over a 7-day period? Research studies have shown that frequency of exposure to a stimulus, i.e. exercise, is a primary key to success. Once you have effective and technically sound exercise performed with appropriate intensity on a regular basis, then you can think about adding volume. And what I mean by volume is the amount of reps and sets you perform. Having said that, more is not always better. Put another way, doing more work can't replace effectiveness, intensity, or regularity. More hours does not equal more results. In order to get our bodies to change, new demands need to be placed on it. There's a term called progressive overload. Progressive overload is not a new concept. Many of us have heard of the story of the Greek wrestler Milo, who every day picked up a baby calf and pressed it overhead. Over the years, the calf grew into a fully grown bull, but those small increases in body weight allowed Milo to grow stronger at the same time. So at the end of his daily lifting ritual, he was able to lift a fully grown bull. This has been termed the progressive overload principle. Results occur as an outcome of progressive exercise using frequency, intensity and duration to cause the body to adapt and change. Our bodies are essentially resistant to change, what scientists call homeostasis. Homeostasis defined scientifically as a system that regulates its internal environment and tends to maintain a stable, constant condition. What this means to you and I is our bodies want to stay the same temperature, the same weight, the same strength, etc., etc. The body does not want to change, but our goal is to do exactly the opposite. To create a change, we need to apply a new demand or stimulus that overloads the body and creates stress that we're not used to. Essentially, after being exposed to stress, our bodies will regulate to handle that stress. Then, as mentioned previously, we rest and recover. Once the body is adapted to the demands, we must again overload and apply the same stress, but in a bigger amount. So, should you wish to become stronger and fitter, you need to increase the load lifted or the intensity. In fact, regardless of your goal, there is not a training program in the world that requires you to lift less weight or do less total work in the future than you can do now. Your body is smart and it's constantly adapting. Whenever we apply a stimulus via training, the body adapts. But if we don't change the stimulus often enough, the body will become stale, getting used to the demands and stops adapting, leading to no progress at all. The basic premise then is to continually increase or change the stress. The outcome, consistent progress, better toned muscles. So how are we going to consistently keep you moving forward and improving? As mentioned previously, effective training comes first, intensity second, frequency third, and volume last. Let's go over each of these factors. Firstly, the effectiveness of your training. If you've had a program designed by a trainer, really pay particular attention to the form. In other words, the way you move the weight. It's important to go through the full range of movements. Secondly, the intensity of which you'll work within. There are 3 tools we can use: the speed or tempo in which we complete the repetitions, the time length you rest between, and lastly, the amount of weight you use. A good instructor will show you the tempo in which to complete each exercise and the rest breaks between the sets. The key point here is time under tension. Most people simply focus on the prescribed number of reps they've been told to do by their instructor. Next time you're in the gym, watch a person complete one set of an exercise. You'll notice that they'll be done in about 30 seconds. For most of the time, a 30-second set is not enough to promote a change in your body. That's why I advocate the tempo of the exercises. And here is a practical example using a bicep curl. So, barbell curl. We're going to go up in 1 second, hold for 2, and down in 3. So it's up in 1 second, hold for 2, 1, 2, and down in 3 seconds. And again, up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's the correct tempo for most exercises. So that was your example. Each repetition should last for approximately 6 seconds. Time under tension, lasting at least 45 seconds for your whole set. Now, if you find that you can't complete the amount of reps you've been asked to complete in strict form using the prescribed tempo, simply opt for a lighter weight. Remember the Milo story. You'll soon improve. Talking of weight selection, in my experience, the average client adapts to a program every 3 to 4 weeks. Within the 4-week period, we should also be progressively increasing our weights. But always remembering that good form of an exercise always comes first. In other words, if you feel like you cannot complete 12 repetitions with say a 10 kilogram bar using good form, then opt for an 8 kilogram bar. Always strive for a balance between effort and technique. You must use your best judgment and know when to stop when technique breaks down. Okay, I've just talked about the first 2 factors of progressing forward. That was effectiveness first and intensity second. Now very briefly, the last 2 factors, frequency and volume. Frequency, we all know life gets in the way, work life, family life, social life. But we also know in order for us to be happy, we have to put the time in. Now, when first starting a program, just 3 visits per week will probably be enough for you to produce an improvement. And as you master the workouts, it may increase to 4 visits. What I'm really saying here is, if you do achieve that 4th visit to the gym, you'll add an extra 40% of benefit to yourself. Enough said about that. Finally, volume. No, I don't mean scream louder in the gym. I'm referring to the amount of sets you perform. As you master your program, you could add an extra set to some of the exercise. However, be mindful that more doesn't necessarily mean better. I use the term self-limiting exercise. This term prevents you from doing the exercise wrong or doing an excessive volume. That is how it works. Perform the prescribed amount of sets and reps using prescribed tempo and the weights until your technique begins to waver. That's when you know you've hit your volume ceiling. That's your self-limiting exercise. So that's it. If you watch the whole video series, you're now armed with all the information you need to progress forward. And here's my final note that encompasses all that I've talked about. Only you know you are putting in enough effort into your workouts, into your nutrition, and into your sleep patterns, and generally achieving a positive mindset. If you do have any further questions, don't hesitate to email me at steve@thrivefitness.com or click on any of the links below if you've missed any of the previous videos. Best of luck.